get to our page. Tell me when. We're good. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. We are here for Shabbat morning services. We are using the gray books. If you're watching online and you click on the event for the Shabbat morning service, you can read the PDFs of the Shabbat morning service. I have the whole service in PDF form in 3 little chunks. Let me just get my stuff together here. I think, nope, it's already up here. I think we've got what we need. We are going to begin on page 98 for those of you who want to wear a talit. And I'm going to put the talit on. I'm not wearing my robe for this morning, so that I could put a talit on with you. Because my robe, I put the talit and the robe on at the same time. This one is my, I don't know if you can see it, my Eitz Chaim Hi. It is a tree of life. This is actually, believe it or not, a double wide. This talit comes in a size that's only this big. That's what I kind of, so I like this one. It's not humongous, but I like this size. And the blessing on page 98. You'll notice that in this prayer book, we don't have transliteration for everything. So if you don't know how to read the Hebrew, we'll do it first in the English, and then we'll do it in the Hebrew. You kind of know it, but I'll take the last 2 words slowly. But the English says, "We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. You hallow us with your mitzvot, and teach us to wrap ourselves in the fringed talit." You know this is the blessing for fulfilling any commandment. It's going to say, Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, who made us holy by giving us commandments and commanded us. And then the end, the last 2 words are, Lehitatef batzitzit. We sometimes joke that it sounds like to hit the tape, batzitzit, and the tzitzit are the fringes in the corner. So we have, but the especially, so there's fringes on the bottom of this. That's not tzitzit. Only these long ones with the special, someone called it kind of kosher macrame. Those are the tzitzit. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef batzitzit. Okay, sorry about the bunking. So I like the reading. We're gonna go to page 199. Take out a guitar, do some singing. So it's a little bit ironic, some of the things that we do here, because most people who are participating in the service are not participating in person. We have very few people in person, but it feels like we're together anyway. So when we say Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, behold how good and how pleasant it is for us to be sitting here together, we have come to understand that in a new way. Can you hear it, Max? Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'ma na'im, shevet achim gam yachad. Surrounded by the members of the community in which I live, I come before you, eternal God. I share my happiness with them, and it becomes greater. I share my trouble with them, and it seems smaller. May I never be too selfish to give, nor too proud to receive, For in giving and receiving, I discover you as I begin to discover the meaning of my life. Let me not separate myself from the true strength of my community, the experience and wisdom of old people, the hopes of the young, and the examples of care and courage which sustain me. Give me an open heart and an open mind to welcome those who need me and to receive your presence in my daily life. I think of what my community could be and the harmony that could unite us. I think of our loneliness and the friendship that could fill our lives. I think of the good that we could do if we were one in spirit. I know that this is your will and pray for your help. May I and those around me find our joy together, and thank you for the power you give us to help each other. We continue on page 103. Each of us enters this sanctuary with a different need. Some hearts are full of gratitude and joy. They're overflowing with the happiness of love and the joy of life. They're eager to confront the day, to make the world more fair, and they're recovering from illness or have escaped misfortune, and we rejoice with them. Some hearts ache with sorrow. Disappointments weigh heavily upon them, and they have tasted despair. Families have been broken. Loved ones lie on a bed of pain. Death has taken those whom they cherish. May our presence and sympathy bring them comfort. Some hearts are embittered. They've sought answers in vain. Ideals are mocked and betrayed. Life has lost its meaning and value. May the knowledge that we too are searching restore their hope and give them courage to believe that not all is emptiness. Some spirits hunger. They long for friendship. They crave understanding. They yearn for warmth. May we, in our common need and striving, gain strength from one another as we share our joys, lighten each other's burdens, and pray for the welfare of our community. Page 104. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. So before we continue with this one, I'm going to say that this is a similar kind of thing. We've come to understand this prayer in a different way because we're in a time where people are together even when we're separated, because we're talking about our dwelling places. Dwelling places are where we live, but it's also where God lives. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkenotecha Yisrael. We've let God and each other into our homes during this time. It's kind of an interesting thing that we got to stay separated but together. Page 105. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Elu devarim she'en lahem shiur. Ve'eluhem. These are duties whose worth cannot be measured. Honoring one's father and mother, acts of love and kindness, diligent pursuit of knowledge and wisdom, hospitality to strangers, visiting the sick, celebrating with bride and groom, consoling the bereaved, praying with sincerity, and making peace where there is strife, and the study of Torah leads to them all. We're going to continue on page 106 with Nisim B'chol Yom, the everyday miracles. I asked the kids the other day, we were learning this, we're trying to teach the religious school kids different Jewish values every single class time, every time we have a service together. So I got to do the first one, and it was one that's not even in this specific book, it's in the new book, the one about B'Tselem Elohim and being in the image of God and treating each other with dignity. But I asked them, how do you say miracle in Hebrew? And at this point, this week, we should all know how to say miracle in Hebrew. because it was on our dreidel. So in the 4 letters on the dreidel are Nun Gimel He Shin, which stand for the words Nes Gadol Hayasham. And the word Nes means miracle. And this is a true story that in Israel they called instant coffee Nescafe. But the brand Nescafe doesn't really mean miracle coffee, but it's hard not to think of it that way. So Nisim is the plural of Nes. One Nes, one miracle, and many Nisim, many miracles. This is called, in English they call it 4-hour blessings, but in Hebrew it's much more magnificent a title. These blessings are called Nisim B'chol Yom, everyday miracles. And if you start your day thinking about the fact that there are many miracles everywhere you turn, it's a kind of a way more glorious and holy day. We're going to do this in Hebrew, and then we're going to do the end of it in English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lesech vivina, lavchinu ben yom uven laila. Actually, we'll do the whole thing in English. Praise be the eternal God, who has implanted mind and instinct within every living being. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani Yisrael. Praise be the eternal God, who has made me someone who struggles with God. Praise be the Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani bat chorin. Praise be the eternal God, who has made me to be free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, pokeach ivrim. Praise be the eternal God, who helps the blind to see. So I have a literal example of that this week. There was this very cute picture I saw of a prayer book, an Orthodox prayer book, that had the title of the prayer book on the front in Hebrew. Ours does too. Ours has it in Hebrew and English. But this was called Sidor, and it said on the cover Sidor. And then the next line said Kol David, prayer book that was the voice of David, Kol David. But someone wrote, look, this is the prayer book for a cool dude, because if you look at Kol without any vowels, it could be cool. And if you look at David without any vowels, it could be dude. So it was a prayer book for a cool dude. So I sent it to my friend David, who some of us heard not long ago doing a sermon, an audio sermon. And I sent him this picture. And I know he's blind, so how's he going to see the picture? So I had to describe the picture to him. And his name is David, and he's a cool dude. So I described it to him, so I was, in some sense, literally helping a blind to see. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, malbish arumim. Praise be the eternal God who clothes the naked. And some of you noticed that today, although I'm a few weeks late, I'm wearing my Joseph and the many-colored dream coat kind of a color today, because we're still in the Joseph story. So I was wearing that, clothing the naked. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matir asurim. Praise be the eternal God who frees the captive. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kfufim. Praise be the eternal God who lifts up the fallen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamechim mitzadei gaver. Praise be the eternal God who makes firm our steps. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, ozer Yisrael b'gvuraha. Praise be the eternal God who girds our people Israel with strength. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, oter Yisrael b'tif'araha. Praise be the eternal God who crowns Israel with glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hanoten li'ayif koach. Praise be the eternal God who gives strength to the weary. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hama'avir shena me'enai u'tuna me'afapai. Praise be the eternal God who removes sleep from the eyes and slumber from the eyelids. And then we're going to say, it's not written in this book, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, sha'asani b'tzelem Elohim. Praise be the eternal God who made me in the image of God. I like that. And I want you to remember that the word b'tzelem can mean image, like a photograph or a reflection in a mirror, but I think it comes from the word for tzel, which is a shadow. And think about how you are potentially the shadow. I'm looking if we have enough sunshine or anything coming through the window, that you are potentially God's shadow. So it's not an exact image, but it's a reflection, and it has to do with dark and light and all of these wonderful things that come through. So page 108, it says, at all times Revere God inwardly as well as outwardly. Acknowledge the truth and speak it in your heart. I think to some extent that kind of tied into some of what we were looking at for our in the Torah study. When you think about your relationship with God, realizing that God is always there with you. Sometimes people, the way they're behaving, there's a story about how it feels like if you're driving around and you're obeying the laws only when you think somebody is watching, as opposed to obeying the laws because they're the laws. And sometimes you do things like that, like, maybe I won't keep Shabbat today, maybe, blah, 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 maybe. Then it's as if you're more worried about what people think than what God thinks. I like the idea of living your life as if everything were published, so that you're living your outward life the same way as your inward life. We're going to hear that in a few minutes when we look at the V'ahavta. I think that's a similar sentiment. We do have a minyan, if we count the people, if we count the people who are watching us online. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divra chiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'meru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabbah mevarach la'alam ul'almei almaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpahar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemeh dekudesha richu leila min kol berchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amihiran be'alma v'meru. Amen. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamevorach le'olam va'ed. We praise you, eternal God, sovereign of the universe. Your mercy makes light to shine over the earth and all its inhabitants, and your goodness renews day by day the work of creation. How manifold are your works, O God! In wisdom you've made them all. The heavens declare your glory, the earth reveals your creative power. You form light and darkness, bring harmony into nature and peace to the human heart. We praise you, O God, creator of light. Baruch atah Adonai, Baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'me'orot. Deep is your love for us, abiding your compassion. From of old we have put our trust in you, and you've taught us the laws of life. Be gracious now to us, that we may understand and fulfill the teachings of your word. Enlighten our eyes in your Torah, that we may cling to your mitzvot. Unite our hearts to love and revere your name. We trust in you and rejoice in your saving power, for you are the source of our help. You have called us and drawn us near to you in faithfulness. Joyfully we lift up our voices and proclaim your unity, O God. In love you have called us to your service. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Le'olam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם Le'Elohim ani Adonai Elohechem. Excuse me, Adonai Elohechem emet. Continue at the bottom of page 112. Forgive me a second. Eternal truth it is that you alone are God. There is none else. May all the world rejoice in your love and exult in your justice. Let them beat their swords into plowshares. Let them beat their spears into pruning hooks. Let nation not lift up sword against nation. Let them study war no more. You shall not hate another in your heart. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. Let the stranger in your midst be to you as the native, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. From the house of bondage we went forth to freedom. So let all be free to sing with joy. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot osef ele, nora tehilot osef ele. שירה חדשה שביחו גאולים לשמחה על שפת הים, יחד כולם הודו והמליכו והאמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. Tzor Yisrael, Rock of Israel, rise up to Israel's help. Our Redeemer is God, Most High, the Holy One of Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael, we praise you, O God, Redeemer of Israel. Sorry. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Eternal God, open my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Leah, ve'Elohei Rachel, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'koneh HaKol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'mevii Geula Livnei V'nehem, L'ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'Ezrat Sarah. We continue in English at the bottom of 115 together. Eternal is your might, O God. All life is your gift. Great is your power to save. With love you sustain the living. With great compassion give life to all. You send help to the falling and healing to the sick. You bring freedom to the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, Mighty One, author of life and death, source of salvation? We praise you, O God, the source of life. We sanctify your name on earth, even as all things to the ends of time and space proclaim your holiness. And in the words of the prophets we sing, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Tzivahot, Melochol haaretz kivodo. Source of our strength, sovereign God, how majestic is your name in all the earth. Baruch kivod Adonai mimkomo. You alone are our God and our Creator. You are our ruler and our helper. And in your mercy, you reveal yourself in the sight of all living. Ani Adonai Elohechem, I am your eternal God. Yimloch Adonai le'olam, Elohayich Tzion, l'dor vador, hallelujah. To all generations we will make known your greatness, and to all eternity proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh. We praise you, Eternal One, the Holy God. Put this guy away. And we don't have a blah, blah, blah. Yismechu v'malechutecha, shomerei, shomerei, shomerei Shabbat, korei oneg Shabbat. Aham mikadeshei, מקדש שביעי שבת, כולם ישבעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, קורא עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימים אותו קראת השבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, וקורא עונג שבת. זכר למעשה וראשית שבת, זכר למעשה וראשית שבת, ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת, קורא עונג שבת. Our God, God of our fathers and our mothers, may our rest on this day be pleasing in your sight. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and let our Torah be your way of life. Satisfy us with your goodness, gladden us with your salvation, and purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, eternal God, let your holy Sabbath remain our heritage, that all Israel, hallowing your name, may find rest and peace. We praise you, O God, for the Sabbath and its holiness. Eternal God, establish this sanctuary dedicated to your holy name, so that the worship offered within its walls may be worthy of your greatness and your love. May every heart which seeks your presence here find it, as did our people in the temple on Zion, that this house may be a house of prayer for all peoples. God, our Creator, hear our prayer and bless us. Have compassion upon all the house of Israel. Preserve us from sickness, from war, from strife. Keep us from hatred and uncharitableness toward our neighbors, and grant that, dwelling in safety and walking in uprightness, we may enjoy the fruit of our labors in peace. God, our teacher, hear our prayer and bless us. Be with all who spend themselves for the good of humanity and bear the burdens of others, who give bread to the hungry, clothe the naked, and provide shelter for the homeless. Establish, O God, the work of their hands, and grant them an abundant harvest of the good seed they are sowing. God, our Redeemer, hear our prayer and bless us. Bless our children, O God, and help us so to fashion their souls by precept and example, that they may ever love the good and turn from evil, revere your teaching, and bring honor to their people. May they guard for future ages the truths revealed to our ancestors. God, our friend, hear our prayer and bless us. We give thanks for the freedom that is ours, and we pray for those in other lands who are persecuted and oppressed. Help them to bear their burdens, and keep alive in them the love of freedom and the hope of deliverance. Uphold also the hands of our brothers and sisters in the land of Israel. Cause a new light to shine upon Zion and upon us all, that the time may come when your Torah will go forth from the house of Israel, your word from the tents of Jacob. We praise you, our God, whose presence gives life to our people Israel. We gratefully acknowledge that you are our God and the God of our people, the God of all generations. You are the rock of our life, the power that shields us in every age. We thank you and sing your praises for our lives, which are in your hand, for our souls, which are in your keeping, for the signs of your presence we encounter every day, and for your wondrous gifts at all times, morning, noon, and night. You are goodness, your mercies never end. You are compassion, your love will never fail. You have always been our hope. Praise be the eternal God, to whom our thanks are due. We continue on 122. Sim shalom tova uveracha, chen v'chesed v'rachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ועל כל ישראל עמך, ברכנו אבינו כולנו כאחד, באור פניך. כי באור פניך נתת לנו, אדוני אלוהינו, שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך, תורת חיים ואהבת חסד ואהבת חסד וצדקה וברכה ורחמים וחיים וחיים ושלום, שים שלום, שים שלום, טובה וברכה, חן וחסד ורחמים ורחמים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל ישראל עמך, וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל ואת כל העמים בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל בשלום. We praise you, O God, the source of peace. We continue with a moment of silent prayer. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, O God, my rock and my Redeemer. At this point in our service, our hearts and our prayers turn to all who are ill, recuperating, dealing with the consequences of COVID-19 or confinement, or coping with natural disasters. We had some tornadoes that took lives overnight, or the recent death of loved ones. We continue on the inside back cover of our prayer book. If you have anyone for whom you would like us to be saying a prayer of healing, recuperation, you may call out their names. We're keeping them going, huh? I think we may need to include us all in this. We read together, O God, in our hearts we name those who are facing illness and pain. We join our prayers with the prayers of all who love them. Give them renewed comfort and courage. Strengthen in them the healing powers you have placed within us all. Guide the hands and hearts of those who are entrusted with their care. May the knowledge of your love and ours give added hope to them and to their dear ones. May they find even greater strength because our prayers are linked to theirs. Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. We praise you, eternal God, the source of healing and health. And in our congregation we have come to add this prayer on behalf of our military, police, firefighters, EMTs, doctors, nurses, and veterans. Mishebarach avotenu ve'imotenu, may the one who blessed and protected our ancestors guard all those whom we have entrusted with the responsibility of defending our freedom, protecting us or healing us, in this country, in the land of Israel, and everywhere they've been called to serve. Give them courage to succeed and strength to persevere. May they return home safely, and let us say, Amen. And I know this isn't until next week, but next week we've got bat mitzvah, so it's harder for me to take a personal moment out. But I wanted to wish a special happy birthday to my brother Scott and to Audrey Carroll. Wishing you a very, very happy birthday this coming week. Special birthdays. Anybody have other special, joyful things that you wanted to share? we're going to continue on page, well, I'm supposed to tell you what goes on. This is the time where I get to change my hats and become a president. I want to remind you that next week, Friday and Saturday, Natalia Murov will be celebrating becoming a bat mitzvah finally. She turned 13 last year and was supposed to be doing the service last year, but because there was a pandemic, she postponed her bat mitzvah, so she's doing the same Torah portion she had studied for last year, but she's doing it this year. So next Friday, she will be helping to lead the service and giving a special sermon about her mitzvah project. And then next Saturday, not only will she be helping to lead the service, but she will be called to the Torah, to chant the Torah and chant her haftarah. So we're looking forward to a wonderful morning and weekend celebration. And then if you join us in person, then they're offering hosting a Kiddush luncheon afterwards. So if you're watching, then all of these services will be on YouTube next Friday nights and Saturdays. We will not have our Zoom experiences next week. There is Hebrew class tomorrow, religious school and Hebrew class tomorrow. There was an accident about the way we put in the no religious school message in the email that went out yesterday. It snuck in the wrong week. It's supposed to have gone in for the next week instead of this week. So we're sorry about that. There will be school tomorrow and Wednesday, but not starting next Sunday. I want to remind you, and there are other events that are coming up. Please watch for them. We will be having the last 2 weekends of the month. All of our services will be back on Zoom for reasons that will be apparent when you look at what the dates are, namely the 24th and 25th of December and the 31st of December and January 1st. Everybody gets to stay home but come to services at the same time. And we get to visit with each other if we're on Zoom. When you're on YouTube, then it's harder. We're not really visiting with each other, but we are praying together. I want to remind you that the Jewish Federation is hiring a new executive director. Bethany is retiring and moving away. So we need to fill her position. If you're thinking it's a part-time job, if you're thinking it's something that you could do, we would love for you to consider it. Please send suggestions to Bethany or the president of the Federation, David Brainis. They're also planning their trip to Israel in February. There's still time to get the reservations in, but we're running out of time for that. So if you're planning to go to the Federation's homepage, jewishnla.org, for details. Donations were made to B'nai Zion Sisterhood Flower Fund in loving memory of Charles Yellen by Gary and Harvey Yellen, in loving memory of Mandel C. Selber and Mary Rosenbaum Selber by Mandel C. Selber Jr., Kimberly Selber Lester, Mandel C. Selber III, and Suzanne Selber Miller. In loving memory of Paul Silverblatt by Sam Silverblatt. And I wish you a Shabbat Shalom, and thank you for joining us today, whenever and however you're joining us. We continue with the Aleinu on page 148. If you can, please rise as the ark is open. You good? Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגוי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. And on the facing page, we sing the Hebrew in the middle of the page, on page 149. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. When the ark is closed, you may be seated. Thank you. We continue on page 151, which means for those of you who are, you're already in the concluding service. Anyway, page 151. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. We include in that list those who perished last night in the tornadoes, and I think it's going to take a little while for them to determine how many people were lost, who lost their lives. There were some buildings that were destroyed that had a lot of people in them, and they don't know yet what the total loss will be. So we're praying for them and their families. We also acknowledge we do not have recent numbers. We know that we had lost at least 23 people in our military this year. We've lost over 445 police officers this year. 293 of those were COVID related. We've lost 6 police officers in Louisiana. We've lost 21 canine officers. We've lost 132 firefighters. 61 were COVID related. 1 firefighter loss was from Louisiana. In Louisiana, we've lost 14,877 people to COVID as of yesterday. 982 in Caddo. I'm sorry to say that this week we got bumped from moderate to substantial risk again. In the United States, we have lost 794,941 people. And in the world, we've lost 5,292,294 people. That was as of yesterday. We, in our congregation, are remembering these congregants' parents who died the past year. We remember George Rothkopf. We remember Henry Brenner. We remember Ron Riley. We remember Fred Phillips. And we are already at the bottom of page 153. As we remember those who died at this season in years past, we take them into our hearts with our own. Those for whom we're observing yortzites this week include Esther Fish Arbeli, Sam Beenan, Eva P. Cooperstein, Ike Kullick, Roger David, Belle Finkelstein, Melanie Meyer Goldstein, M. Mendel Heller, Mickey Holland, Philip Kenny, Hyman A. Pearlstein, J.J. Scott, Mary R. Selber, Mandel C. Selber Sr., Yvette Sommer, Harry Steckel, Marilyn Weil, Sam Wiener Jr., Charles Yellen, and Dorothy G. Zadek. In this moment of memory, our griefs and sympathies are mingled. Loving God, we praise your name. If it is your tradition to stand for the mourner's Kaddish, or if it's comfortable for you to do so, we continue on page 154 with the Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divra chirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chaye chon u'v'yome chon u'v'chaye d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehe shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam ul'almei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehe shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav v'ya'aseh shalom Aleinu va'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved. Amen. I have I think I may have more. Oh, I do. 1, 2, 3. I have enough challah for everybody here. So I'm going to send you home with challah. Everybody, so you can, glad that you came in person. But at this stage, we are going to bless each other and send ourselves on our way. So we say, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, may God bless you, may God protect you. Yair Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka, may the light of God's face shine upon you, be gracious to you. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, may God's face be lifted up to you. May God grant you peace. Shabbat Shalom. May you have a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat. Find some rest, find some peace. Thank you for joining us.